Welcome to MELfeed.video. We are commencing a live web stream service via youtube.com from Echuca, Australia. We currently conduct these streams on Monday evenings, with other times to be added as more opportunities arise. Please visit our website MELfeed.video for further information. This web video project presents old and new community TV programs. Please enjoy your stay with MELfeed.video.
Welcome to NAT Chat. Today on our program we have Professor Jim Poteet, who has coached throughout the US in the Southern District, has 2 championship rings in that region of the Nazarene. He's a lecturer in 6 different universities. Jim, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you for having me here today. It's great to be back in Australia.
Yes, we know that you're a regular visitor here. This is your 6th time, I believe.
Yes, I don't know that you'd say I'm a regular visitor here. I first came 47 years ago this month. 1967 was my first time here. I came with a basketball team and we played all throughout Australia, and I've been back several times since then.
Wonderful. Well, you are quite a huge name in basketball in America, and you know some of the big names of basketball here. Can you just tell us a little bit about your background in basketball and in education?
Well, first of all, I was born in Texas, and when I see the boots that you have on, I know that you know a little bit about Texas. But my educational background, I have a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and a doctoral degree, all in the physical education sport management field. I've played basketball since I was a young boy. I played college basketball in the United States, and then I've been fortunate to travel almost all over the world, both playing basketball and coaching basketball.
Oh, that's wonderful. I believe recently, Jim, you've also been inducted in the Hall of Fame in basketball in the southern area of southern region of the U.S. Is that right?
Well, there are 2 college organizations in the United States. There's the NCAA and the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics, and the NAIA is made up of smaller universities. And yes, this past April, I was inducted into the Hall of Fame there.
That's a great accolade, and I think you've got a great ring to show for your achievements. Welcome to Australia, as I said. Can you tell us your purpose of being here in this country, what you hope to connect with? And I know you know some people here who are very high in the sport of basketball. Can you tell us a little bit about your visit here to Australia this time?
Well, I again came this time to do a few things in basketball. We did a clinic a couple of weeks ago in Brisbane, and had 35 young boys and girls in a clinic. Had all that we wanted to have there. But my background, coming here 47 years ago, I really began to understand the game of basketball here. I've watched it develop. I met some of the real pioneers of basketball in this country. Lindsey Gaze, who played on the 1956 Olympic team for Australia when Australia hosted the Olympics, and then became the Olympic coach for many years. And then, of course, who became more famous than Lindsey was his son, Andrew Gaze, who played in America. And then another Olympic coach, Barry Barnes, who came from the Melbourne area and who now works at the Australian Institute of Sport in Canberra.
So you know these people well, and you come often and you greet them. But you also mention that your association with the youth in basketball. Tell us a little bit about what you hope to achieve with the youth in basketball and through your background.
Well, you know, there are 2 sports that I think make for great starting in a sport, and that's soccer and basketball. They both are games that are easier to learn. They're not violent, and so the game of basketball is just a fun thing for any youngster to learn. It takes developing skills. It takes developing some discipline to learn the skills of the game. And so when I've been here in Australia, I've always had the opportunity to do clinics, to get into the schools, to get into the clubs. And so I've developed a real love and a real appreciation of the Aussie basketball community.
Yes, and it's a rich, very hungry for sport and basketball from the US, and you have an audience that, as you say, has captured your attention, and you want to work with them. Can you tell us a little bit about what kind of work you want to do within the basketball and what impact on the youth in their lives you'd like to make?
Well, one of the things you can do when you are dealing with youth in a sport is they'll listen to you. And that's great when they will listen. So you talk to them about things like, hey, do well in your studies. You need to be well educated. You can't just play all the time. You can talk to them about discipline. You can talk to them about living a life that you eat well, you rest well. You have to have some determination. You need some character. One of the things I've been able to do in the U.S. is help develop a program in the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics called the Champions of Character. And we talk about different aspects of character, such as discipline, such as integrity, such as servant leadership. And I think sport is good for developing character if you use it in a teaching method.
Yes, of course, and character and discipline, that it seems to attract young people in sport, but not so much outside sport. How do you make that connection in everyday life?
I'm not sure where you are heading with that question, but you know, in everyday life, you've got to live a life that is meaningful. I think that's important. You know, we're here on Earth for 70 years, maybe, or more. And you want to live a life that has purpose, it has meaning, that you can look back at the end of your life and say that I accomplished something while I was here. And you know, I'm a bit over 70 now, and I can look back and say I've had many, many great opportunities.
And you look great. What I meant is that when you discipline a young person in character, as you say, outside the sport, it is difficult, but I believe that within the sport environment, discipline and character might be an easier message to get across to the youth. Is that correct?
I think that's correct. And of course, part of the reason is because when somebody is playing a sport, they tend to be highly motivated. And when one is highly motivated, they're going to listen. They're going to try to do the things because sport captures great attention throughout the world, and especially in your country. I've never seen a country that's so sport crazy.
Thank you, Jim. We're going to take a short break. You're watching NAT Chat, and we'll be with you shortly.
If you were living on the streets, wouldn't you want more than just your best friend to keep you safe and warm? Donate to Backpack Bed for Homeless and give warm, waterproof protection and dignity tonight. Call 1300 Oz Help.
Welcome back to NAT Chat. With us is Professor of Sports Management Jim Poteet. And welcome back, Jim. We were talking about basketball and how big the sport is in Australia and the impact that the sport has. Can you give us a little bit of background as to how basketball was born and how it was instigated? We know that it started in America, but tell us a little bit of the history of sport.
Well, you know, basketball isn't really a very old game. It's only about 125 years old, but it was invented in the state of Massachusetts in the U.S. at the YMCA training school. And the YMCA training school, which stood for Young Men's Christian Association, was there to learn about sport, but also to teach character.
Okay.
And there was a student at the school named James Naismith. And one of his assignments in the classroom was to develop a sport that could be played indoors. Well, he looked around inside of a gymnasium, and he saw a running track up around the gymnasium, and he had the idea, well, if we took a ball and we had something we could throw that ball into, then we could have a sport. So he found a couple of peach baskets. They nailed them to the side of the running track, and he wrote the rules of the game one night, and they played the game the next day.
Oh.
And the first game, the score was 1-0.
1-0.
Yes.
It took a long time.
But the game of basketball is a sport then that began to be taken around the world in two ways. One by American Army troops during the wars and as they were in different countries, but also by the Young Men's Christian Association. It was brought around the world. And so it's kind of interesting that the game started in a character-based setting.
Okay. So I sense that you're saying that there's a history of Christian background, and the idea or the purpose was to bring out discipline and character within the youth and the community, and that's how basketball was assigned.
It was, and it was to be played in the times when the weather wasn't good, and that's why in America anyway, our basketball season is during our winter time. But you know what's happened in your country, and as I talk to some of my friends here, Lindsey Gaze and Barry Barnes, they say that at the grassroots level, it's become a year-round game here.
It's played all the time, everywhere.
Yeah.
We see it in basketball fields all over the country. And it has a huge impact, as you say, and also it has an impact on personality of character and discipline with the youth. What impact have you experienced in those two traits of personality and character and discipline in the youth?
Well, I can give you probably a good example. One of my first university coaching jobs, I recruited to come to our school a young man out of inner city Chicago. I was coaching out in the Los Angeles area then, and this young man came to us from inner city Chicago, and he had not been around outside the African American culture very much. He had grown up in a setting where he hadn't had a lot of experiences, but he came to Southern California and began to study, and he was a very, very fine basketball player. And in fact, I brought him out here to Australia 3 different times on teams, and he played here. His name was Ron Johnson, and he was a wonderful basketball player. But as I watched him grow and mature, I saw that sport helped him be disciplined. It helped him to become a good student. I also remember one time when he was in an English class, and the English professor was a little concerned about Ron's ability to pass his class, and I remember having a conversation with that English professor and saying, hey, this young man needs an opportunity. Give him an opportunity. He'll make it. He said, well, I don't know if he'll make it. Maybe he just needs to drop out of the university and go back home and go to work. Well, if you fast forward that story till today, that young man has 3 master's degrees. He has a PhD in counseling psychology. He is a tremendous expert in biofeedback in the U.S., and he is constantly speaking at conferences and working with young people and in teaching. And so I found that sport helped that young man become the person that he is today.
Yeah, wonderful. And it seems to work with the youth because you have a captive audience. Basketball is a strong sport amongst youth. And as you just expressed a lovely story of a young man who used sport, and in particular basketball, to achieve great achievements. Why is basketball in particular such a draw? Has such a draw with the youth?
Well, I think there's a couple of reasons. First of all, you can put up a basketball goal almost anywhere. You can put one up at home in the driveway or in your yard. You can go to the schoolyard and there's an outdoor court there, or you can go to the indoor place. But the game is easy to play. You can play by yourself. You can shoot baskets and you don't have to have anybody to play with. Or you can play against one other person. A regular game of basketball only takes 5 players. So the game does not require a tremendous amount of space to play, and that's good. And the game is easy to play. When I say it's easy to play, it isn't easy to learn the skills to play, but the game is not very complex. I was watching a cricket game last night, and I'm trying to understand the game of cricket, and I'm not understanding it yet, but I think if you watched a game of basketball, you'd understand pretty quickly.
Thanks, Jim. So you're saying because it's so easy to access and it has no status attached to it, like anyone can play it, and also because it's easy to understand, it has a following based on the simplicity of the sport and how easily accessible it is. Well, we could talk a little bit more, but we're just going to take another short break, Jim, and we'll get back to you. You're watching NAT Chat. We're taking a short break and be with you shortly. Welcome back to NAT Chat. With us is Professor of Sports Management, Jim Boteed. Jim, we were talking about your visits here to Australia and that you've been here 6 other times. I believe you have, you'd like to establish something here in Australia with the youth. You'd like to connect with them in some way. What would be your dream and aspirations for your visits, and what would you like to achieve through a sport, and in particular basketball?
Well, your basketball setting, especially at the grassroots level, is very strong in this country. You have clubs in all the major areas of the country, and one of the dreams I would think is if we could find university graduates in the U.S. that would like to spend a couple of years in Australia, come and join a club, a basketball club, play basketball on the top level of that club, but also have a real passion for teaching the game of basketball. Take the young boys and girls, under 8, under 10, under 12, under 14, begin to help them develop the game at a greater level. One thing that's happened in the U.S. is there are a lot of really good Aussie basketball players who have come to the U.S. and played at the university level, and in fact playing at the top levels in America now in the National Basketball Association. Right. We just had the NBA World Championships, and an Aussie named Patty Mills was an outstanding player in the championship game when he made 17 points and he hit 5 out of 7 3-pointers. And I heard just last week while traveling here that he signed a very big contract next year in the NBA. I think something like $13 million for 3 years. So one thing that could happen here is develop some more Patty Mills. And you got to teach the game to have that happen. And so if the game could be taught and it could be done by us bringing some American university graduates here, I'd love to do that.
Yeah, other than the accolades that basketball has, which are great, you mentioned Patty Mills and other names such as the Gaze family, are there any other concerns or any other teachings that you'd like to bring to the youth other than the accolades of basketball? I know that you're a philanthropist and you'd like to bring the youth into a place of, as you said earlier on, of character and discipline. Can you tell us a little bit about other than the accolades of basketball, some of the character building that basketball can bring?
Well, when you're teaching young people the game of basketball, you can always talk to them about other things that are more important in life. And sport is important. Yes. It's extremely important to you Australian people, but there's life after sport. And if you can talk to them about getting an education, you gotta make a living later on in life. So you need an education. You need to be a person that has a good character, that people can depend on. You're responsible. You go to work someday, you've got to show up on time.
Yes.
You've got to do all the things that are a part of that. You have to have integrity. People need to believe in you. They need to know they can trust you. And I think sport can bring that kind of teaching to it as just a part of it.
Okay. And what would the mechanisms of creating such an environment here in this country? How you've mentioned that having seminars and having groups with college basketballers from the US come over and taking part. Is that what your dream is, to create something like that here in this country?
I think we could create something like that here, and I think it would be something that that could be a real legacy that you would like to leave here. Of course, the key to that is we got to find some people that are here already that would say, "Hey, this is something that will work. We'll help you put this together." Fortunately, I've made some good connections here over the years, and when I've made those connections, I think those people can help open the door. And so often it's not what you know, but it's who you know.
Exactly. And as we said earlier on, we have a captive audience who, in this state in particular, Victoria, as you know, is very hungry for sport, and in particular basketball. So the audience is there, and you're talking about getting, particularly with the youth, you have an affiliation with the youth and the grassroots of basketball. What impact do you think, or what drives you to be so interested in the youth? I sense there's another drive behind just basketball that it's in your part of your life.
Well, one thing that's been important to me has been my relationship with God, my relationship with a personal God. And the first times that I came to Australia, I came with a team called Venture for Victory. And our whole idea in Venture for Victory was to share our Christian faith. And that was important. And that has led me to want to be able to share something that's good in my life with others.
Oh, that's very interesting. So you're saying your faith has given you the desire to pass on the gift that you received in basketball to others, and not only in basketball itself, but some of life's difficult periods of life and amongst the youth. So you're hoping to achieve for the youth a game of sport and basketball, and you're also trying to build up character and discipline amongst the youth, and you're trying to do it in our hometown. Well, we love you, Jim. We want you to stay here for a lot longer. How long is your visit here?
Well, this time it's 3 weeks, and that's it's a long time away from home, but it's not long enough to really get to do all the things you want to do. But a real opportunity. I really like Australia. I like the Aussie people. One of the things that you notice here is you don't have a cultural divide. I almost think you guys are part of America sometimes.
Yes. We're closely aligned. Very interesting to hear that, again, about your faith and the way you want to bring back, through your faith, bring back integrity and character in young people. We'd love to hear more on that topic. Can you tell us what your achievement would mean to the community and to the youth here?
Well, I think if we could do something like this, I don't think it would be anything but a positive impact. And what you want to do when you're teaching, when you're around people, is you want to make a positive impact. You don't want to make a negative impact. And anytime you do the right thing, you're probably going to make a positive impact.
Well, thank you, Jim. Thank you for your faith. Thank you for the gift that you have in sport and the love that you have for this country. We'd love to see you more, but we've run out of time. Thank you once again. You've been watching NAT Chat, and we'll be with you again next week.
evening, I'm Leonardo Puglisi. This is 6 News. Tonight, a Melbourne protester tests positive for COVID-19 after attending a Black Lives Matter protest, and despite that, they're set to continue around the country. Also, 80% of Americans say their nation is out of control as riots continue across the United States. Victorian students return to school after 8 weeks of online learning. Our reporter has the details on how it went. Do you agree with cancel culture? That's the question we're asking after shows were pulled off streaming platforms over the use of blackface and racial stereotypes. First on 6, the New South Wales train line reopens after a major crash. And what does this former winner have to say about the new season of Big Brother? 6 News starts now. Thanks for joining us. We begin this very busy Sunday with the latest on the Black Lives Matter protests happening across Australia. They're set to continue even after a protester in Melbourne tested positive for COVID-19. Reporter Lincoln Holmes has the details.
So unbelievable.
Last weekend, hundreds of people took to the streets to protest Black Lives Matter. They didn't just take the streets, they also took to the skies. The protesters marched through every state in Australia, including Victoria, New South Wales, Queensland, WA and SA. Lincoln Holmes, 6 News.
Now to the latest on the riots unfolding across the United States as we go to air, and the National Guard is currently deployed in around half the country as more violence erupts. Donald Trump's latest tweet has saw widespread condemnation across the world after he suggested a 75-year-old man who was pushed to the ground by police officers in New York could have been an Antifa provocateur, adding it could have been a set-up. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo described the president's behaviour as cruel and reckless. In a shocking statistic, 80% of Americans say their nation is out of control. In a joint survey between the Wall Street Journal and NBC News, 1,000 people coming from a wide range of political views were spoken to. This all coming as more shops are looted, with cars burned and destroyed across the United States. And Cops has been pulled off the air after 33 seasons, many saying the show glorified police actions as protests about police brutality continue across the world. The iconic show began in 1989 but has constantly faced scrutiny about alleged police violence and aggressive behaviour. Changing pace now, and Victorian students have returned to the classroom after more than 8 weeks of online learning. Reporter Darby Travers joins me now live from Melbourne. Good evening, Darby. Many actually said they were excited to go back to school.
Yeah, good evening, Leo. That is exactly right. Thousands of Victorian students returned back to school last Tuesday after nearly 8 weeks of remote learning. Now, all the schools had put in tough hygiene measures, and they include hand sanitisation and, of course, social distancing. However, plenty of people have told us that there has been traffic chaos, with lots of people avoiding public transport. But Leo, all this doesn't really matter because school holidays, the next school holidays, are only a week or two away. Back to you, mate.
Darby, thank you. Australian universities have rubbished claims from China that international students are unsafe due to racist attacks. It came as China's Ministry of Education released in a statement. During the pandemic, Australia has seen multiple incidents of discrimination targeting those of Asian descent. It's added to tensions between Australia and China after tariffs earlier in the month on our barley and beef. Let's get to tonight's viewer poll, and we're asking, do you agree with the growing cancel culture? For more on this, I'm joined live by reporter Jack Hahn in Sydney for us. Jack, good evening to you. What did the results say?
Yeah, the results, they were very stark, Leo. A whopping 92% of you said you do not agree with the growing cancel culture, but that hasn't seemed to have had any impact on the cancel culture whatsoever, because this week we have seen a large number of institutions enacting cancel culture policies. This started when HBO Max in the United States pulled a movie which was seen to be racist and romanticizing a slave trade and African American slavery in the United States. States in the 18 and 1900s, and this really has reached Australian shores too, with Netflix pulling Summer Heights High in Little Britain, and this is really sparking a growing conversation about racial relations in the United States and also here in Australia. But a really prominent Aboriginal and Indigenous speaker and presenter, Brooke Boney, said on the Today Show that she just thinks these are virtue signals. She doesn't agree with this cancel culture, but it is really taking flight in Australia, and it's really sparking some important conversations. These conversations have led, though, to Sunrise star Samantha Armytage being front and centre for some of her remarks that have been seen as racism, this one in particular.
The Alma twins come from a mixed-race family in the UK. Maria has taken after her half-Jamaican mum, with dark skin and brown eyes and curly dark hair. But Lucy got her dad's fair skin, good on her, along with straight red hair and blue eyes.
And this week has gone from bad to worse for Samantha Armytage and Channel 7. It's been revealed on Friday that she is in fact now going to be sued, as well as Prue McSween, for comments that they made in 2018 about Aboriginals. An Aboriginal elder will be leading the suit. Now, these same comments landed Channel 7 in hot water. The regulator, ACMA, saw them as making a serious breach of the regulation. They were fined, and now the Australian Human Rights Commission is also investigating. So there's some really troubling times going and some really important questions. Back to you, Leo.
Jack, thank you. A New South Wales train line has reopened following a major crash. Reporter Jared Taylor has the story.
Horizon has been dominating operations in the Hunter Valley for years upon years. Their service has always been deemed acceptable and perfect. But recently, some more concerning news has surfaced. The Australian Rail Track Corporation, ARTC, said the incident occurred at 7:50 p.m. on June 3rd and involved a northbound bank engine. A pair of locomotives used to assist a train up a steep grade towards Ardglen Tunnel had derailed on a curve. The locomotive drivers were assessed by paramedics but suffered no injuries. The site has been quarantined until safety investigators can attend the site the following morning. All rail traffic has ceased in the section between Ardglen to Cairncrool in any direction until further notice.
Horizon, the rail operator held responsible in the crash involving two of their 5020 class series locomotives, is yet to comment.
Jared Taylor there. In a miraculous tale of survival, William Callahan has been found alive after going missing on Mount Disappointment Monday morning. The 14-year-old has non-verbal autism, making it especially hard for rescuers in Victoria to locate him in the near-freezing conditions. Daniel Andrews thanked the hundreds of volunteers, community members and emergency services personnel who spent 3 cold days searching in the bush. The Premier adding it might be named Mount Disappointment, but there's absolutely nothing disappointing about today. What an incredible story. And we're going to take a quick break now, but coming up next on 6 News, we'll take a look at what's trending online. Plus, we chat to former Big Brother winner Benjamin Norris about his thoughts on the new season. Also, more bad news for Australia's media industry. The ABC set to make programming cuts following a budget shortfall, and Melbourne shivers through their coldest day of the year, but will the chilly weather continue? Stay with us.
Streaming across the globe, Ben Norris, Rob McKnight, and David Robinson. Ben, Rob, and Robbo. News and views, entertainment, it's the Ben, Rob, and Robbo, Ben, Rob, and Robbo Show. Ben, Rob, and Robbo Show. The Ben, Rob, and Robbo Show, Monday to Thursday at 1 p.m, right here on Ticker TV.
Welcome back. It's time to take a look at what's trending online, and social media was flooded with allegations that contestants on the new season of Big Brother are racist. The first 3 contestants to be eliminated from the show were all people of colour, leading to strong speculation that contestants are targeting non-whites. On another note, the show's been labelled a ratings success for Channel 7. Benjamin Norris won Big Brother in 2012. He told Channel 6 exclusively that the show could only have been revised under a new format. Take a look.
Well, it's actually really fantastic. I think publicly I've been, notoriously skeptical as to whether or not this episode or whether this series was going to be any good. There's a lot of format changes, but from what I can tell you is that it's all the best elements of what Channel 10 did. It's all the best elements of 9. And then also they've brought something really fresh, something really exciting, and it comes together in one episode like you've already been watching this series for weeks.
The ABC is set to make cuts to programming after more budget cuts from the coalition. It comes only weeks after the Bushfire Royal Commission was told that the national broadcasters saved lives during Black Summer, with constant updates on the bushfires throughout radio, TV and online. Last month it was reported by The Guardian that the ABC had lost nearly $400 million since the coalition came to power. To sport now, and in the AFL, Collingwood have drawn with Richmond in the first game of the return to AFL season. Players took a knee before the game in solidarity of the Black Lives Matter movement. The final score was 5-6-36 for both sides, although it was marred by controversy with this mark before towards the end of the game that may have seen the Pies lose the match. Quick check of the national forecast now, in Darwin set to get to a cloudy top of 34. In Brisbane, 23 tomorrow and 22 on Tuesday. Sydney, sunny, 17 degrees with similar conditions on Tuesday. In Canberra, a cold start to the day, 3 degrees but sunny later in the day. A slightly warmer top, 15 degrees. Melbourne, a top of 16, partly cloudy. Hobart, 14, also cloudy, 13 on Tuesday. Adelaide, rain, 16 tomorrow. And Perth, a top of 20 degrees. And staying with the weather for a brief moment, Melbourne shivered through their coldest day of the year so far. The temperature at 8 a.m. was only 2 degrees on Tuesday. That was in the CBD. It made for a cold day for students returning for school, and experts say these conditions will continue throughout winter. And on this very busy Sunday, that is 6 News. You can stay up to date on our Facebook, Twitter and Instagram pages at 6NewsAU. Remember, if you're watching via MELfeed video, stick around because up next is Inline Plus, followed by Harmony and Diversity. I'm Leonardo Puglisi. Thanks for your company. Good night.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV.
Hello and welcome to Inline Plus. Today our visit to Adelaide continues while we talk to Jackie from Skate South Australia. Skate South Australia is the governing body for the various roller sports disciplines in South Australia, and we talk about their challenges and successes of running events in their state. Hi, we've got Jackie Blythe here from Skate SA, and what is your role with Skate SA here in South Australia?
I'm the State Development Officer of Skate SA, and I've been doing that role for the last 10 years.
So what sports come under the banner of Skate SA? It's pretty much the same as most of the states around Australia.
It is. Each state has slightly different. We look after inline hockey, speed skating, artistic skating, roller derby. We don't look after skateboarding. That's looked after by the
Head
national
office,
body,
yeah.
Skate Australia. We also do a fair bit of community, local community skating.
So what are the issues that you find in South Australia with skating?
I guess our number one issue is there is no roller skating rinks in South Australia at all, and it's always very difficult to build a sport up if you don't have a venue or a home. So we're at the risk of rec centres, schools, community centres, anywhere where they will let us skate. And of course the usual story is a lot of places don't want roller skates on their lovely floors. So then we're pushed further and further back to the older venues, and some of them are not of a suitable size. So we have to modify a few of our disciplines because, you know, they need the bigger rink. But, you know, we make do, and for the normal recreation skater, that's fine. But for our competitive inline hockey and artistic and speed, they would love to have the bigger venues.
So I guess there's always a risk that as they upgrade venues, they're always getting a bit more precious about their floors.
And that is the other issue. The more venues they build, the more venues we feel that we're being pushed out of. Because the newer the floor, the less likely they are of letting us skate on them. And you know, quite often people say, well, how expensive is it to throw a slab of concrete down? Well, you know, when you're looking for grants and things like that, they don't want to spend their money on a slab of concrete. And first and foremost, you have to have the land. And because we have gone down various paths of looking at various ideas. We're in the middle of putting together a business plan and maybe applying for a grant for a rink. But, you know, that all takes time and it takes money. But if we were to have a roller skating rink, it might be one of those where you have to start with an outdoors rink with a roof over the top and slowly build up. But if we're lucky enough to get a lovely person or business who wants to donate, that will at least pay for half with the grant, because when you go for a grant, it's dollar for dollar. And so with our numbers, as popular as roller skating is, it still has low numbers in comparison to some of the more traditional sports like football and netball and those sort of sports.
So if there's someone out there that wants to start up a rink in South Australia, there's certainly a group of people here that would welcome it, isn't there? So.
Especially if you have any land that you're happy to put us. I mean, we've got a few people that are interested in putting some money towards it, but, you know, it's for what we want, a specified indoor rink that we can run national tournaments and state tournaments and even have, you know, national events here. That would be brilliant, because then our people don't have to constantly be putting their hand in their pocket to go to the other states for tournaments.
Yeah, because I understand that, particularly for the speed skaters, I know that it's very difficult for them. They have to spend a lot of time competing in Victoria, don't they, because of the situation.
I believe our speed skaters are quite good on the outdoor tracks because
they spend so much time outside.
They do,
yes.
But the indoor team events, you know, we have in the past struggled because we don't have a place for them to train. So, you know, there's on one hand that's a benefit, I guess. It makes us stronger on the outdoor events, but on the flip side, yes, we don't have anywhere to go for the indoor events.
Yeah, so despite those problems, I'm sure there's some strengths in South Australia. What are some of the strengths that have happened here?
Look, I think roller skating in general is on the up, and our participation clubs, the number of those is on the up, and their I guess mandate, or what they hope to achieve, the participation clubs, is purely operate at the grassroots level in the local communities. So they're quite happy to run little skating, learn to skate events in local community halls. Obviously a rink would be better, but they're quite happy to do that. And because they don't enter into competitions. It's all about the fun and the enjoyment of roller skating. It's a great way for our other sports to have the grassroots work done for them. And then once anyone realises, hey, I could be good at this sport, or I'm interested to go on further, then the participation clubs point them in the direction of the more competitive clubs and more traditional sports of roller skating.
So as we know, roller derby is rapidly developing, and when we've had our first series on air, roller derby is still quite new, but it certainly has rapidly developed since then, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has, and it's hugely increasing our membership base. In South Australia, we do have the affiliated and unaffiliated groups of roller derby.
Just to make things complicated for you.
Yeah, and Adelaide Roller Derby's been around for quite a while, and that seems to be the go-to place for senior women's roller derby in this state, even though they're not affiliated with Skate SA. But the clubs that are affiliated with Skate SA are very passionate in the development of their people and their sport. And, we have one club that's purely a junior roller derby club, and we have another club that is men, women, adults and juniors, so covers the gamut of all ages and are at different venues as well. Their club travels to 3 or 4 different venues, so it covers a broad spectrum. But what I've found, which is really refreshing, is that the roller derby clubs are keen to do the right thing. They want to make sure in all areas of their club that they're compliant, that their kids and their members are safe, that they have the policies to make sure everything is covered. And so coming in new, they've been exposed to what we call, I guess, the more modern side of sport and the world of compliance and risk management, whereas the more traditional sports, they're used to just getting on with it and playing it and not worrying about the compliance and the risk management of their sport.
Coming up after the break, we continue our talk with Jackie about roller sports in South Australia. Northern Access Television will turn 30 in 2020. We are planning a celebration night with a book and a special TV show about our history. If you're a past member or a volunteer of NAT, we would love to hear from you. For more details, visit the website nat30years.info and find out how you can help celebrate 30 years of media for the community. The 30th anniversary of Northern Access Television. Let's celebrate in 2020.
So it's been a harder adjustment for a lot of the traditional disciplines, has it?
I think in some cases it may have been, but roller derby seem to be, the clubs that are involved with us, affiliated, are getting on with it really well, and their numbers are increasing all the time. So, hopefully in the future, as skaters say, we may have more roller derby clubs, because I think it is on the rise really a lot. They were in the recent World Roller Games, roller derby, and Australia sent a men's team and a women's team, and I'm sure there'll be people in South Australia that want to take part in that in the future.
So of course in the previous weeks we've been to Rockabella's roller derby. How are they developing now? I believe they're doing quite well, aren't they?
Yeah, they've grown enormously since they first started, and they've been affiliated with us for quite a couple of years, I'd say. But this last 12 months, they've grown out of sight, and they have about 3 different venues. They have 4 teams that compete against each other every week, or bout against each other every week, and they have the juniors and they have the men, so that they're developing quite nicely. And their president actually is the roller derby VP of this state, so she looks after anything that's roller derby in our state. So things are moving along, and they're pushing to do more and go more places. So I think it's heading in the right direction.
And in one of our earlier episodes, we went and visited Skate Fit Crew out at Ingle Farm. How did that come about?
Well, Skate Fit Crew was our first participation club in South Australia, and they originated by doing what used to be a Skate Australia program called Skate Fit. And the lady, Mel, that took on Skate Fit, she decided she wanted to keep it going. So we had a chat, and I said to her, well, why don't you become a club? And she wanted to deal with all people in the local community, not just children, but adults as well. And so, you know, she offers learn to skate classes, skate fit classes, all sorts of things to the local community in the northern suburbs of Adelaide. And Mel jumps in and helps out with anything that, anytime I need a volunteer at Skate SA to go to community centres for councils to run things, Mel puts up her hand and off she goes and takes all the locals for their first go at roller skating. But her club's increasing in size as well. So I think participation clubs is the way of the future in South Australia, because we don't have rinks.
Because of unique circumstances here.
Yeah, well, you know, usually roller skating rinks are the groups that run
those sorts of classes,
discos, birthday parties, those sort of things. Well, we don't have that, so we've got to promote roller skating to the recreation side of what people want to do, and we've got to be able to do that. And Skate Fit Crew is one of those participation clubs that can do that. You know, recently we got another new one just on board this year, Roller Girl Fitness, and they're doing great work in the southern suburbs. So we're trying to get it all covered, and in between that we've got a roller skating trailer that, you know, people can hire and run their own events, and that's promoting roller skating. So in South Australia, I think generally roller skating is becoming more popular.
So what sort of events run in the state? Are there many events that run, or do you find that you have to travel a lot to the other states for competition?
Well, our clubs that run competitive skating, we have our own state titles for inline hockey here, and this year we're actually running the national inline hockey competition over in the northern suburbs. We've got a school that's allowing us, Inline Hockey Australia, to put their own floor and boards down. So it's a Herculean event because we have to put up the rink, but yes, so the nationals is being held here this year for inline hockey. Artistic, they have a mini state championships here, but they travel to Victoria to participate in their state titles. And Speed have Grand Prix here amongst themselves, but we only have one Speed club. So to participate against other clubs, they also tend to travel to Victoria to be able to compete at that level. So, you know, it is hard for those sports, but, you know, that you've got to be inventive and work ways around things, I guess.
Yeah.
Historically, but also currently, our skaters are doing our speed skaters are doing quite well on the national scene. We've got quite a few youngsters coming through that are relatives of ex-Australian representatives. So I think South Australia have got a few young kids coming through, especially, as we said before, especially skating the outdoor events. And that's good. It's like artistic. We've got a couple of young girls that are doing really well nationally on the artistic scene, and just got back from the German Cup, and being coached by an ex-world champion in Tammy Bryant. And, you know, her niece is one of those kids that's coming through. So, you know, we have got some future potential in South Australia, and so on that front, things are looking good.
So how do people find out about Skate SA and the member clubs here?
Obviously you can Google roller skating in South Australia and something will come up, but we have a website, www.skatesa.org.au, and listed on our website are all the clubs and how to get in contact with all the clubs. But for easiness sake, just go to your local rec centre, and I'm sure, you know, they'll say if they've got roller skating on there or not as well. So, because there are a lot of roller skating venues around, as in rec centres, that are holding roller skating for general public that don't have anything to do with us. And at the end of the day, we just want lots of people roller skating. So we don't mind where they're doing it, as long as they're doing it.
Okay. And if you happen to be interstate, you can have a look at skateaustralia.org.au, skateaustralia.org.au, and that'll link you to the relevant body in your own state. So just in case you happen to not be from SA, which some of our viewers are, have a look there.
And I forgot to mention, if you're here on holiday, go on to the Skate SA YouTube channel, and there's some good skate trails that have been videoed on our YouTube. So if you bring your skates over to South Australia, there's plenty of places you can go and skate.
Coming up after the break, we take a look at one of Skate South Australia's skate trail videos.
Community television is a part of Australia's media landscape, and it's yours. On July 1, it could be gone from the airwaves forever. In its place, the Minister for Communications, Paul Fletcher, intends to replace a vibrant and diverse media sector with years and years and years of white noise. When there is no cost to the Australian government to keep community television on the air, and in the absence of a viable alternative, we ask Minister Fletcher to keep local TV on TV. For more information, email info@c31.org.au.
As Jackie mentioned in the interview, Skate SA have produced some videos highlighting various skating trails in South Australia. Here's an example of one of those videos visiting the Barossa Valley.
going down. I'd say definitely not beginners, especially if they didn't know how to stop. Could be bad. Nice path though, quite windy, a couple of trees in the middle. Yeah, so if you're picking up a bit of speed, you want to watch.
Well, that's all for this week, but if you'd like to see more of this and other videos from Skate SA, you can visit skatesa.org.au. We'll continue our visit to Adelaide next week. Until then, bye for now.
Next week on Inline Plus, we venture out to the Adelaide Showgrounds to visit the Adelaide Roller Derby. And if you're interested in being part of our future shows, you can visit us online at inlineplus.net for further information on the show. Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV.
Alleluia. Om Mani Padme Om. Allah.
Welcome. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and today we're speaking with Bhakta Das, who's a Vaishnu Hindu priest and is also the Communications Director for the International Society of Krishna Consciousness. The International Society of Krishna Consciousness. Communications Director. Tell us about what first the society is and then what a communications director
Hare Krishna,
does.
Norman, it's nice to be back. Thank you very much.
Good.
The International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Prabhupada, when he came to the West, people were advising him that when you're going to set up an organization, make it as broad as possible and call it the International Society for God Consciousness. Prabhupada said, no. International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Krishna is a name for God. It means all attractive personality. And so he was adamant that that had to be there.
Yes.
So I'm the communications director for that organization. I present Krishna consciousness wherever I can. It's now my occupation, and I get a small stipend from the movement to do the work that I have to do. In that work I deal with interfaith groups. That's a very important aspect of today's society. I actually see that as a panacea to the world's problems, that we're actually communicating between religions. Communicating, breaking bread together, celebrating together, and respecting one another. And if this was a direction for the future, it would bring harmony in the world. It really would. So I've got a great opportunity, and I'm very, very thankful that I have that work, that I can work with my God brothers from so many other different religious traditions. I have so many friends in different faith traditions, and it's absolutely astounding and fulfilling in my life.
Yes, I'd rather like to take those lines as promotion for this program. They're really good.
No problem. That's good.
But there are a lot of interfaith groups, aren't there? How busy do you find yourself with that?
Oh, incredibly busy. I'm part of the Dandenong Interfaith, which is probably the most preeminent one here in Melbourne. They do incredibly dynamic work, working with different groups and different religious persuasions, and in particular they do things like school programs, which I'm very, very supportive of, bringing faith back into the schools, allowing people to actually, young children, to experience the different faiths and the different denominations and different philosophies, letting them think about life, that life is more than just materialism, that there's a depth to life, a greater depth which will bring great pleasure to a person's life. So this is really great. I'm also part of the Faith Community Council of Victoria, which is the preeminent body which supervises and directs different multi-faith functions, deals with the government and so on and so forth. So I represent Hinduism at these. I don't necessarily just represent the Hare Krishna movement, but I represent the broader Hindu community. And in that I also am the secretary and was one of the founding members of the Hindu Community Council of Victoria. So again, that's another aspect to my life.
And the Hindu Community Council of Victoria, how long has that been going for?
Since the Parliament of the World Religion that was here in Melbourne. So it's been existent for about 5 years.
Well, just seeing as how you raised that, let's turn that into a question. You went to the World Parliament of Religion meetings, I'm sure?
Yeah, we did, yeah.
How did you find that?
I thought it was amazing. Very uplifting, very inspirational. Met some amazing people there. The Dalai Lama was there and he gave a talk. Our organisation also had, the Hare Krishna organisation also had an opportunity to do a presentation, an entertaining presentation. And one of our Swamis, Swami Indradumna Swami, did this incredible multifaceted presentation of martial arts, chanting, playing of drums and basic, Bharatanatyam dancing. It was absolutely amazing. So much so that we had one gig that was sort of a smaller gig, but when the organisers saw how good that was, we were put on the main event.
The main one.
So that was really nice.
Well, something with just sticking with that for a moment. With the World Parliament, what was your impression of the outcome? What was gained from the World Parliament?
What was gained was that now within Melbourne we have nearly 20 different interfaith communities in and around the whole state of Victoria. From Geelong to Werribee to Dandenong to the northern suburbs to Port Phillip, right across.
Yes.
People are talking about how can we get together with our diversities and contribute to society. This is a huge thing.
It's massive.
I can't stress it enough, Norm. I honestly believe that this is the future. That we work together. We're not separate little entities with our own practices.
No.
We have a broader understanding of God. God is the same God for all of us. There's an analogy that our spiritual master gives. Just as the sun is shining on all of us. In Japan they call the sun by one name. In Germany they call the sun by another name. In the same token, God is one. He is just the one personality, and we call him by a different name. We call him Krishna, Jehovah, Allah. It's the same personality we're talking about.
Yes. That's an important insight. And when you talk about the World Parliament of Religions giving seed to those interfaith groups, another significant part of that, of course, is each of those interfaith groups is financed to some extent by local councils.
Yeah.
So you've actually got a political element to it as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we're just seeing the results of that now with the Dandenong Interfaith. They are so supportive. And now the actual interfaith body itself, and I just came back from meetings this morning about that, the interfaith organisation itself is now employing a person to coordinate the interfaith activities in the Dandenong region, which is a real plus.
That's a big movement.
It's the next move, you know, because they realise that if you work in harmony with these different religious groups, the community will be in harmony.
Yes.
And that's really the direction.
Because you reach out into all of the elements of community through
exactly.
it. Well, we'll stop reaching out too far. We're running up against the clock for a second this time, but we'll be back in a moment.
Which one are you going to go? This one, lady? Boy. Oh, you can't pull. Just a minute. Okay. All right. Just needs a bit of discipline. Can I help you with your bags? Thank you.
Autism. Change your reactions, change your actions.
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and we're speaking with Bhakta Das, who's a Hare Krishna priest. Now, we've mentioned earlier that the Hindu Community Council of Victoria had come into existence, and you had an interest in that. In looking at that, I see that they do a chaplaincy activity, and you've got some commitment to that, I believe.
Yeah, I'm part of also the Health Community Council of Victoria.
Right.
And the chaplaincy side of the Hindu Community Council is a very important part. The Hindu Community Council was basically set up for social welfare activities for the Hindu community.
Oh, was it?
As I mentioned to you before, it's the fastest growing immigration demographic. And consequently, people end up in hospital, in refugee centres, in prisons, and they need spiritual solace. They need spiritual nourishment. And so we arrange a chaplaincy facility for people that go to different hospitals and so on and so forth. It's quite interesting because, you know, generally when a person comes out here, they're a student and they're studying, and then they get their PR, permanent residency, and then eventually they'll get married and mum and dad will come out from India.
That's right.
Now they're elderly and sometimes they end up in hospital. And so in the hospital system, we've got chaplains, and I act as a chaplain in the Alfred Hospital. And you will go to a person's bed, like a little old lady, and you say, "Hi, I'm Bhakta Das. I'm the Hindu chaplain for this hospital. and they'll look me up and down and see this white streak and say, oh no, you're not a Hindu. And then you simply say, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram. Oh, ISKCON, because ISKCON is so well known in India.
Yes.
And then they understand. So we provide a facility where we read to them from Bhagavad Gita. We provide, prasadam, which is sanctified food, to them, and just support the family as well.
Okay.
And it's a really needed facility.
Indeed.
The reason why it is needed is because in India there isn't such a thing as pastoral care or chaplaincy.
No.
It's all run from the temples. So when people come to Australia, they're not familiar with that, but their connection to family is not so strong anymore.
Right.
So thereby they have to be introduced to this chaplaincy program, and so we're doing training programs to encourage people to, help in this area. It's a very, very fulfilling service.
And needed, as you say.
Yeah.
I was taken by the fact that ISKCON is so well known in India.
Yeah, it's amazing.
How does that come about?
Because of our genuine spiritual strength, that we are true to the tenets of the Vedas. We tell it as it is, and we have temples in every major part of India, and we have also, which is fundamental to our movement, the Food for Life program, which also happens here, but in India also. Food for Life program is a free meal service to those people in need.
Okay.
Here in Melbourne, we deal with people like Father Bob Maguire. We provide meals for his direction in his community outreach work. We do it through the temple. We provide meals to people in need, usually about 100 to 200 people a day. A day. Yeah. Similar to Sacred Heart Mission.
That's amazing.
And now we're doing outreach work where we're going to be doing a Meals on Wheels service, a Food for Life Meals on Wheels service, because as you know, within society at the moment, there is a real economic pressure on families.
Yes.
It is such a pressure that, people are embarrassed to go to soup kitchens, but they are suffering where the first thing they put on hold is their meals.
Yeah.
And so what we're doing is we're setting up a Meals on Wheels service that people simply ring up, and then we will, through volunteers and again through interfaith volunteers as well, jointly helping these people to provide a vegetarian meal for them and get them through the tough times.
Oh, that's amazing. Now, when you say that it's an interfaith movement as well, or the interfaith's involved in it, is that coordinated through anything like the Hindu Community Council? It's Hindu by name. Does it where will it connect with the interfaith groups? Where would you?
Well, because I'm or whoever is a representative for a particular interfaith body, they're representing Hinduism.
Yes.
So, say for example, in the Kingston Shire, there's a large interfaith connection there. Now, the council is really supportive of that interfaith movement.
Yeah.
So, utilising some of the council facilities and other temple and other church facilities, and also volunteers from those different church groups, they'll be able to advertise and also distribute the meals that we would cook.
Yeah. Okay.
And we cook that through our kitchen in Melbourne, at our Melbourne temple. And as we're sitting here today, we got notice today that we need to expand our kitchen to facilitate all the work that we're wanting to do. I got news today from the Liberal government here that they are willing to support this new venture to the tune of $500,000.
Oh, good heavens.
So
that's good.
Yeah, Matthew Guy is going to be coming to our temple on Wednesday, and he will officially hand over a cheque for $500,000. We have to come up with another $500,000 to expand our kitchen facility so it can outreach to more and more people that are in need.
That's amazing, because as you said, it runs parallel to a lot of other kitchen meal on wheels type activity, and they are flat out.
Absolutely.
And you're flat out. And growing, expanding.
There's a sign that something is not working in our society.
Something is not. That's right.
There's a selfishness within our society that has to be addressed. Today is the society of me first.
Yes.
And this has to change. That changes with true spiritual knowledge, true understanding that we are simply the servants of God.
Yeah.
That everything in actuality belongs to God, and we are simply the servants of God. And outreach, that love for God to one another, is the most important thing.
Yeah, and that's nurtured by the fact that you've got, from the multi-faith activities, you've got people of different faith knowingly working together without faith other than the desire to be present and to help.
And to help in the community.
Yeah.
And when young people in particular see that faith traditions can come together and work for a single goal to help humanity, to help society, to help their local community, then they bring faith back into it, because young people's faith in spirituality has been shattered.
That's right. And it'll be shattered further if we go over time. So we'll come back to that. That's really important. We'll be back in a moment.
Most of us experience life's ups and downs, but we can always appreciate the finer details that make life worth living. But for 1 in 5 of us, mental illness can make us lose sight of the big picture. That's when Paran Mission can lend a helping hand. We've been caring for the community for over 60 years, finding a place for people with no place. Show your support and stand up for mental illness. Visit our website and make a donation today.
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and we're speaking with Bhakta Das, who's a Hare Krishna priest. Before we went to the break, we were talking about the enthusiasm of young people, the potential of young people growing spiritually by working together. Take us a bit further down that path.
People are looking for something else. Norm, right throughout our society now, young people are looking for something else, and there's a definite split. It's either you take the totally materialistic sort of side of things, or you actually start looking at the spiritual side of things without the necessary dogmas of religions.
Yes.
They want to see genuine spirituality. In our society with young people, you see the growth of things like yoga, things like meditation, prayer groups, so on and so forth. There is a genuine interest. So there's one group that's like that, and the other group is more in the materialistic, hedonistic in a sense.
Yes.
I mean, my wife and I just by chance, we switched on the TV to watch the news, and there was this program on. There was so much filth and degrading of human dignity.
Yes.
That sometimes you just think, where is this leading us for sense gratification? It is a horrible situation.
Yes.
And young people are wrapped up in that, thinking that that's the be all and end all. So we as spiritual leaders have to show an alternative.
Yeah.
And that means outreaching and helping our fellow man. As Jesus said, love your neighbour as you love yourself. The primary thing he said, though, is love God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul. So make God the principle of your life.
Yeah.
Make that the centre of your life, and then see your fellow man as you would see yourself.
That's right.
And you can't help but help them.
No. It's it's like outreach without preach.
Bingo.
By action.
Exactly.
Yeah. And they see that. Yeah, that's so are there any movements apart from these Meals on Wheels, etc.? Is there any sort of collective consciousness which comes out of the interfaith groups which are targeting specifically youth? And if that's the case, how are they doing it?
It's still in a developmental stage.
Yeah.
We're still in a very early stage, but I see a lot of potential in the future for that sort of an area. Yeah, absolutely. So, for example, in the Dandenong Interfaith Group, they're cultivating programs with young primary school kids.
Okay.
The other thing is, as I mentioned to you before, they have different discourses at actual schools, high schools, secondary colleges. Another thing that they do is we take tours of, say, Year 10 or Year 11 school kids to a mosque, to a temple, to a gurdwara, to a Christian temple, to an Orthodox temple. And each one, the teacher there, the leader there, the priest there, tells them of what they're doing to revive spirituality in their community. So they get a broad understanding. You know, not a narrow-minded point. And this can be Catholic schools, it can be public schools, so on and so forth. And it is amazing. These kids want to learn. They're like sponges. They want to learn the truth.
And do you go as a collective entity, or is this just individuals go? Like you might go to a school, or do you go to a school along with some leaders?
Both collectively. Sometimes I travel with a Jewish rabbi.
Yes.
Or I may be with a Sikh priest. You know, and we go together. And they see that also. You know.
Right.
These guys are taking us to these different places of worship, and they're pretty cool sort of guys. They're,
Yes.
you know.
Does this roll over into, I'm thinking environmental issues as much as anything else, but your farm, is that something which you include in this? Because it brings people into into nature, into an interface with animals, which once again, there's a lot of alienation of young people from the animal. It turns up in the supermarket under polystyrene, polystyrene packs. It doesn't look anything like where it comes from, so they're disoriented and disengaged. Do you use the farm for any enlightenment?
We have different retreats, and you know, it's available to different groups to utilize even, you know.
Is it?
But we want to encourage people in growing their own vegetables, holistic sort of farming methods and so on and so forth. But it's important. It's important, you know, that people get a different perspective on life.
Well, that's general youth. What about youth from the Hare Krishna perspective, the growing of the Hare Krishna movement? How is that happening? It's
growing in leaps and bounds. If you come to our temple, there's little kids running around everywhere, so our program for new devotees is working really well. Families are producing really nice little kids everywhere. They get under your feet and, you know, they're everywhere, so that's great. Our movement is growing in leaps and bounds, especially now. It's different from the demographic that we had in the 70s and 80s, where it was basically Western people, Western young men and women like myself. Now, because of the increase of the Indian community, they're now supporting it as well.
Yes.
And there's a growth and a comfortable connection with the Indian community. They like the Krishna consciousness movement. They like the temple worship. They like our regime of worship as being very strict.
Okay.
And so there's a growth. There's an incredible growth. And actually, this is now, in 2016, is our 50th anniversary of the actual signing of ISKCON in the Western world. So the Haris have been chanting in your streets for the last 50 years.
Well, there you go. And by having the influence of Indian migrants, etc., it'll actually change the intensity, or not change, but redirect the intensity of the movement.
It allows us to do things that we weren't able to do in the early days.
Yeah.
In the early days, so many people tell me, oh, I remember the Hare Krishnas, they used to chant in the streets all the time. You know, where are they now? Well, we still go out 2 times a week, in the night time we'll be chanting. But generally, the demographic has changed.
Yes.
We all grew up a little bit, we had to look after our family, we work in different aspects of life. There's policemen, there's nurses, there's solicitors that are Hare Krishnas.
Yes.
So with this influx of the Indian community, like I told you in a previous episode, we had to produce things and sell them to the public, or sell our books to the public. And sometimes people got a bit fed up with the Hare Krishna knocking on your door. Now we get this opportunity where the Indian community supports the movement.
Talking about support, we're actually coming to the end. Would you support our next week's interview by coming back again?
It would be an absolute pleasure, Norm. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week, and we'll be speaking again with Bhaktadas. Bye for now.
Baha'u'llah Shanti Om Allahu
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV.
Spirit of God in the clear running water, blowing to greatness the trees on the hill. Spirit of God in the glimmer of morning, fill the earth, bring it to birth and blow where you will. Blow, blow, blow till I be but breath of the Spirit blowing in me.
Hello, welcome to Spirit of Life. My name is Geraldine Lee, your host, and our guest is Tanya Wilson. Welcome, Tanya. It's great to have you in this show.
Thank you, Geraldine. It's such a privilege. Yes. And thank you for asking me.
Yes, I'm really interested in your faith journey, particularly how you came to have strong faith. Did you start with faith quite young in your life?
Yes, that's an interesting question because my parents, we were just an average Catholic family. My dad was a convert from Anglican, and he became a Catholic to marry mum. At that stage, it was a requirement. So, my mum used to go to church. My dad, whenever he felt compelled, probably Christmas and Easter mostly. Mm-hmm. And but I think the Lord did speak, must have been speaking to me, because from a very young age, well, my parents put me into a Catholic school, and at this school, basically, my parents were in the country, so I had to be with my grandparents.
They're Anglicans, isn't it?
They are Anglicans, yes. So from the age of 5, I was with my grandparents.
That was young.
Yes. But my grandmother, she was really brilliant. She had 5 children of her own, and I got very, very close to her. I think her love probably was a very practical reflection of the love of Jesus.
Oh, wow.
And her influence. And even then, they didn't teach me a lot of Catholic prayers, but they were very faithful to make sure that I prayed every night. And the Our Father was the big thing.
Yes. And I hear that you went, at different times, you went to Mass too.
Yes, so the Mass that I went for would be either at school or with my grandparents, but I mainly started going for Mass after I turned 8, because later on, when my sister started joining us, when it was time for her to go to school, 3 years later, my parents decided that my parents couldn't handle 2 children. It wouldn't be fair for them. So my sister and I were both moved to a boarding, I suppose you could call it, they didn't want to send us to boarding school because my dad had some bad experience in boarding school. So we ended up in this house run by a lady. She was a widow. And she had 3 daughters of her own, and one of them was the teacher in the school. It was Good Shepherd Convent.
I see.
So there was, nuns and it was a nice Catholic school.
Yes.
And so in this place where I was with there was about between 10 and 12 girls. And it was a lot of fun, and the big thing was that we got to go home on the weekends, whereas the boarding school, they didn't allow that.
Oh, I see. So that's good.
And so the chapel at the school, we had Mass every morning at 6. So I would wake up at some earlier, must be 5 5:15 or 5:30.
That's incredible for a young child.
8, 10, yeah, I don't know what actually called me to do that. And I would wake the lady in the house and say, I'm going for Mass, you know.
Oh, wow.
And I would go up the hill to school. The school was just across the road. So I would go up. And that was my whole daily Mass. That's when I started going for daily Mass. At a very young age. So by the time I finished Mass and came back, the rest of the house people are ready and ready to go to school, and I join them for breakfast, and my normal day starts.
That's wonderful. It's great that you already started the seeds of faith, and I hear you continued on, but then you drifted a bit during senior school, but then you got involved in the charismatic, and that seemed to help spark off something.
That's right. So so life went on. I was just an ordinary student, grew up. I did very well in school, started like an accountancy course. But my dad's family were in Australia, except for other than my dad, all his siblings. So 2 of them were in Melbourne, and I was sent on a holiday here. Mum and Dad said, go and experience life a little bit. Go and spend some time with your uncle and aunt. And I came here, got involved in what the parish that stage was Frankston, where my uncle lived. Getting involved in Mass and everything. And so I met my husband at a Sri Lankan function, future husband. And so I ended up getting married and living here. However, the charismatic involvement was at St. Dominic's, and that sparked a new lease in my faith, really.
What is it about the charismatic that helps to spark people off?
It is an awareness of the Holy Spirit. I think that many people who are holy, religious, in the Catholic Church, obviously, they receive the Holy Spirit, especially through the sacraments. And when it comes to knowing the fruitfulness of how the Holy Spirit in your life, the gifts and the fruit of the Holy Spirit, a lot of them don't understand how active that is. They're naturally holy. Like my grandfather was someone who was very, very holy, but he probably never had that knowledge of where that holiness is coming from. It is coming from God's Spirit in us.
Yeah, and I suppose that's the very essence of the charismatic. There's a focus on the Holy Spirit, isn't it?
That's right.
We'll come back to that after the break.
Okay, thank you.
You've been watching Spirit of Life. We'll be back after the break.
Every new line means 2 more hands. Join us, lions.org.au.
I'm able to dream, I'm able to smile, I'm able to grow, and I'll go the extra mile, one day at a time. So put your hands together, we can change lives forever. Together we're able.
Able Australia. Together we're able.
Love, love, until I feel the breath of the Spirit flowing in me.
Hello, welcome back to Spirit of Life. My name is Geraldine Lee, your host, and our guest is Tanya Wilson. She's been sharing her faith story. Hi, Tanya.
Hi, Geraldine.
You've been sharing deeply about your faith and how the charismatic helped you to have an appreciation of Mass. And I also remember that in reading about you, it also helped you to have an appreciation of confession, the sacrament of confession.
Yes, it's interesting because being a part of the charismatic movement for over 20 years, it's like the Lord worked with me gradually, showing me more and more, giving me more and more light through the Holy Spirit to discover the beauty and love and His love. So when I first joined the charismatic movement, it was all about the friendships, the joy, and I was much younger then. So I really enjoyed the singing and being able to, I think like I mentioned once, being able to actually deep inside my spirit, my relationship with Jesus, be able to come out with it, if you like, to really express it, and without having, without feeling like I need to be private about it. And so that was the first thing that I discovered, that I was able to open out and speak freely about my faith, not in general public, but with people I knew who had faith, with my family, the people I trusted.
Yes.
I had built a bit of trust, and so that was my first thing. The joy that comes out of knowing the Holy Spirit. You just want to express it,
share it with others.
Share it with others. The other thing is that through the years, I have realized that there was a force that I've been called to a lot of ministries, whether it is just offered, like a lot of people in churches said, come and help with Eucharist ministry, reading. And in everything, I felt that the power of the Holy Spirit, I needed that power. And I felt like, you go into the charismatic meeting, it is like where you go to get plugged. And
so what kind of things happen at a charismatic meeting? What kind of activities do they do?
So basically we have time of prayer and praise, song, praise and worship.
Spontaneous?
Yes. There's a musician who plans the songs, but then there's a lot of room for spontaneously responding. Once we start worshiping and praising, we welcome the Holy Spirit, and then we let the Holy Spirit take over. That's what happens at a charismatic meeting, and we are encouraged to use our gifts, whatever we have, whether it's intercessory prayer or whether the Lord will give us a prompting to read a passage of a reading from the passage of the Bible and share it with each other. So the whole meeting we basically lean on the Holy Spirit to guide us.
And what about is there an emphasis on the friendship of Jesus or the salvation story as part of the charismatic?
Of course. The whole charismatic movement, from what I see, is very much in line with what the church is encouraging us to believe in. And so that's why you said before that it led me to a deeper awareness of the love of Jesus, especially through the sacraments. And so I was already receiving communion every day, and and the receiving communion is receiving Jesus, the presence, the body, the soul, the divinity of our Lord every day. And that was revealed to me more and more. I had an appreciation for that I was receiving Jesus every day through the Holy Spirit. And
so is it like you're sitting there, or you hear a talk, you're sitting there and suddenly something comes to your mind and you have a revelation, or is it that you're listening to talks where people give you these messages?
It could be both. I think it's like a gardener working on the garden. The Lord works on us constantly. So with me, I can't say that it happens instantly, but I know every day is a growing experience. You can see the new plants sprouting, the new revelations.
Yes.
Yes, and then confession is one of them. I used to go maybe once a year. And so there's various talks as well during the meeting. So we have the prayer and praise at the start, and then there is a planned talk. Well, whoever gives the talk, one of the leaders have a topic for the night.
Oh, fantastic.
So there was a period we were led, I think the leaders were led to share a lot about forgiveness and the sacrament of confession and everything. It really, I think because it happened a few weeks in a row, I started listening to them, and when I started actually responding, you always have to respond. You can get things, but you have to respond to really discover the grace that comes out of it.
Wow. And I heard that you had a miracle of, because initially there was a bit, you were slow to get pregnant, but with a lot of prayers you got pregnant.
That's right. So when I first got married, I was the first, because I was the first grandchild on both sides, and
so there was no rush.
There was no rush as such, and I didn't feel.
On that note, we'll carry that message later.
Yeah.
You've been watching Spirit of Life. We'll be back after the break.
Till I feel much breath of the Spirit flowing in me.
Every time we buy certified organic, we're making a choice to help our environment and build a healthier community. But it can be hard to know that what we're buying is truly organic. The Australian Certified Organic logo is only given to products after a very rigorous process. So when you see this logo, it means you can trust that there are no genetically modified foods, no animal cruelty, and no harsh synthetic pesticides used. A healthier community is always better for our future. So the next time you shop, look for this logo.
You're there when they can't sleep. You're there when they forget. But who's there when they're at school? Asthma can be serious. It affects 1 in 10 Australians and claims 400 lives each year. Does anyone at your school know what to do in an asthma emergency? Log on to asthmafriendlyschools.org.au and find out if your school is asthma friendly. Shouldn't every school be asthma friendly?
Love, love, till I feel much breath of the Spirit flowing in me.
Welcome back to Spirit of Life. My name is Geraldine Lee, your host, and our guest is Tanya Wilson. She's a woman of faith, and she's sharing her faith story. Welcome back, Tanya.
Thanks, Geraldine.
You were saying that people were praying for you to have a baby, and
yeah. So it was first my prayer, because I kind of for a while I didn't really think there was an issue. Parents and parents-in-law keep, dropping little hints, even from the minute you get married, but that doesn't really, or it should have, but it didn't really take a deep seed. I was caught up with my life and I didn't think any of it when the years passed and I didn't have a child, probably about 3 or 4 years. And then one of my nieces, my first niece was born, and she was really beautiful. And they got married, obviously, a few years after us, and it suddenly hit me. I started to think, what's happening? What's happened here? Have I not noticed something not working? Because I didn't ever not try to have a baby, although I thought nothing of it when I didn't.
Yes.
And obviously there was an issue there which I wasn't paying much attention to.
I see.
And then year later we had another niece born over in Sri Lanka, my sister's child. And so it was we were about 6 years, a few years married then, 6, 7 years married. And she was beautiful. She brought so much joy to the family, and I became godmother to her.
Yeah.
And my husband and I were godparents. So it was that whole awakening within me of becoming a mum. And then my real prayer started, probably privately first.
Yes, so
but
the
then
desire grew.
Then I knew others were praying for me. But the miracle of this was, obviously we had to go and see doctors and do a lot of investigation and things like that.
Yes.
My personal choice was not to do IVF, because that was my personal choice, and the Lord honored that.
Yeah.
So when I discovered I was going to have a baby, we were 12 years married, and the beauty of it is that my mom was attending this novena, Our Lady of Perpetual Help novena at St. Scholastica's parish. That was St. Scholastica's, every Wednesday.
I see.
They used to have it then. And she was praying for this cause, and she felt that it was an answer, that the Blessed Mother answered that prayer for her daughter.
Wow.
And when I actually announced the same news to my mother-in-law, she said to me, I have been praying to Our Lady of Perpetual Succor. I have been going to this novena at St. Peter's in Clayton. So these two mothers were doing exactly the same thing, unbeknown to each other, praying every Wednesday to Our Lady of Perpetual Succor. So that to me is the miracle.
Incredible.
Yes, so that was the Lord's gift, and He is faithful, because they say, those who sow in tears reap in joy, because there was many tears in that journey over the years. So
Oh, that's great. And also part of your faith journey has been that you got involved with the against euthanasia, and that so you've been involved in quite a few different ministries.
Yes. So the euthanasia thing was very interesting. As you know, there was a last year, or was that 2016?
Yeah, about 2016. Yeah.
There was the there was the vote for Victoria going down the path of having the option of euthanasia in certain circumstances. And there was basically the different churches got the instruction to lobby the leaders on this issue and on how they vote in Parliament.
Yes.
So with any ministry I do, when I am asked, I kind of try to have the attitude that Our Lady has, which is say yes, when you don't even understand what it's all about. And I didn't have any elderly parents. I was not present at my grandparents' passing because they were overseas. So this subject wasn't really affecting me personally.
I see. Yeah.
But I think through CCR we got a letter saying, you know, you should be active in your parish. And we also got, so I just asked the parish priest, have you got anyone working on this? And he looked at me and said, oh, do you want to? Because we have a lady, but she needs help. And so when someone asks me for ministry, like I said, I respond with
requests,
with by saying yes, but I didn't really have a personal connection. Except I thought it was was not the right thing, you know. We need to support our people to live. So when I actually said yes, and I met the lady who was working. She was a retired palliative care nurse. And I learned so much from her, and I learned everything about palliative care and how we need to have the option of having more and more support for people through palliative care and to the love, giving them the love and kindness at those last moments of their life, or when they're going through the end of their life.
We've come to the end of the show, but I would like you to come back next time, and so you can share more of this.
Sure thing, thanks.
You've been watching Spirit of Life. Join us again next week. Goodbye, and God bless you.
Bring it to birth and blow where you will. Blow, blow, blow till I be but breath of the Spirit blowing in me.
This season, we need your help to control Queensland fruit fly in our region. Your infested fruit is destroying your neighbour's harvest and the livelihood of our orchardists and their families. Pick up and dispose of fallen fruit. Infected fruit in your backyard is a breeding ground for fruit fly. Monitor fruit fly numbers by hanging traps in your fruit trees. Traps can be purchased at your local hardware stores. Net your fruit trees and susceptible vegetables with fruit fly specific netting. Contact us for information.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV.
Now we're here for a calendar launch.
That's right, we're here for the Pumped Up Done Under calendar launch.
And you are November?
I am November this year, yes. So I've done the calendar, this is my fourth year.
Fourth year.
So, yeah, it's
You're an expert.
I should be by now, shouldn't I?
Absolutely. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you here tonight.
Yeah.
I'm going to scoot off to the Carry-On Casino for the guys' launch, for the footy players' launch, and you're going to stay here talking to the girls and everybody else.
This party, babe.
All right. Well, leave it to you. Enjoy the night.
Thank
and I'll see you in the
some of the calendar girls, and I think we'll have time to have a bit of a party as well. What do you think?
Look at this. You've bought a calendar. Who's your favourite footy?
It would be Brad Ottens,
Why Brad?
because I'm a Richmond supporter.
Oh, you're just going for the team, are you? So you're hoping that these guys are all going to sign it?
He's actually on my birthday in the calendar, so
He's on your birthday. Oh.
that must be a sign, I reckon.
Yeah. So how much have you purchased this for?
$15.
$15, and the signatures and autographs are priceless. Yes.
Yes.
Now you're going to be bidding?
Maybe not.
Why not?
I don't know. Didn't bring enough money, maybe.
Oh, okay. That could do it. Yes, indeed. We'll just wander through and see. Oh, look at this. You've got one. Who's your favourite?
Oh, well, actually, I'm here chaperoning my niece.
Yeah, that's what they all say, right?
Paul Mercurio, he's pretty good.
And you're going to go up to Paul, right, and say, can you sign this for my niece, aren't you?
Absolutely. Look,
Yeah.
spewing, they've got one
Poor
each.
excuse. We've heard that one all before, haven't we?
Absolutely. I have
So
to
you're going to be bidding
someone.
for your niece?
We'll see. All depends.
How old's your niece?
21.
Oh, 21?
18.
What, you're a footy follower or not?
Yeah, I am.
Who's your team?
Carlton. Yeah.
And who do you...
Don't say anything else.
That's it. I was going to leave it at that.
Okay, good.
Yeah. I don't mess with this woman. So you're a bit young. How old are you?
20.
20. How are you going to handle 20,000 screaming women out there?
20,000? Jeez, that's an exaggeration.
It is a little bit, but it'll sound like there's 20,000 out there, believe me, when they start seeing you out there.
Oh, it should be alright. I'll just stand behind Matty and see how we go.
Matt's the big protector, is he?
Yeah, he is. He is.
Do you find it overwhelming, all this stardom, and just because you're a footy player, you play football, now it's almost, it's about celebrity status as well?
Yeah, it is a bit. I don't really get noticed or anything like that.
Yet.
So yeah, hopefully it stays like that. Otherwise, the coach might not be too happy. But
why is that? You're on a calendar. It's all going to start somehow.
Yeah, just worry about playing good footy, I think. Yeah.
That's the priority, isn't it?
Definitely.
So you go out in the sand, drink a lot, all that sort of stuff?
Nah, not really, mate. In the off season, have a bit of fun, but not really during the season much.
It's strict.
Yeah.
Training every day or?
Yeah, we get 1 weekday off, but yeah, training.
So you just sleep that day, yeah?
Yeah, pretty much. Don't do much.
Well, that's to be expected. We won't play until next year, and full pre-season and start again.
And that means being injured, you've had plenty of time to get in the gym.
No, and then I've been together 4 years. Go Sirens! But she's taken off.
Sirens, you were so excited.
And we just got I know we're so excited.
I can feel the energy. Now tell me, you got a new single coming out?
We sure do.
Yeah.
It's been released last week. Yes, like, and like. Like
sing?
fire, like rain.
Like fire, like
When
rain.
I can talk, I can sing.
Okay, you going to do that tonight?
Yes, we are.
Who's your football fan?
All I know is Dave Spriggs, just because he's my mate. Go
Cat.
yeah.
Geelong. Go to Geelong.
I live in Geelong.
Oh, okay. You're a Geelong girl too.
I still live there.
Oh, sad thing. I got out years ago.
Did you? Oh, come on, we love
Some
Geelong.
never get out. So tell us the new single. How's it been going?
Well, it went to radio last week. It's been played on Mix FM. Thank you, Mix. And
3 times a day.
goes to
every day?
video hits this weekend.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, so there's competition running for 3 weeks.
Okay, what's the
And,
competition? Win a date with you girls?
No. Actually, they don't actually tell us.
It's off.
Yeah.
Sports girl voucher with the stereo and all that.
Well, what can I do with a sports girl voucher?
Well, you could buy presents for people.
You could.
Oh, I want the date with the 3 girls. I do. That's a tease. I want to talk to Video Hits about this because normally they do that.
Well, we can arrange it. If you want to work out your own competition,
We can just go for a coffee now. What do you say?
Okay.
Yeah, we'll just go back out the back room. So who did the video clip?
A guy called Mark Hartley. Very good. Very good.
Is it hard?
It was. It was about a 17-hour day. So
About a 7-degree day in next
freezing, and we're in a car wash, and there's
okay.
so shower in the
All nipples are out there, yeah? Cold. What
it's for children to watch. Anyway, we go through the car wash, and we're in a convertible V-Dub. And
So you go in looking like this, and you come out frizzed.
we sort of. We kind of
We
do.
go in cash and come out, climb it up.
And we have some spunky boys washing our car, and then it turns into a dream, and they take their tops off and they start washing our car seductively. But we don't.
And children are watching this, and she says,
it
you
doesn't
know.
make much sense,
They
does it?
tear up the dance floor in the car wash.
Yeah, and then there's a foam party, and the foam sort of comes
Then
up
these
to-
dancers just appear.
Who came up with the concept?
Mark Hartley.
Mark Hartley.
Once again, yeah.
It's very realistic.
You don't have any input?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, every time I go to the car wash, that happens.
Girls start dancing,
Yeah,
the disco
yeah.
ball drops down.
Really? Okay, so you guys are here at the Pumped Up Done Under calendar launch. Why aren't you in the calendar? Or are you? I'm not in the calendar. You're not in the calendar? What was that? I've actually done some stuff for the website, but I'm not there. Okay. So do you model? Not a lot. Not a lot. Much. Sometimes. And would you consider doing the calendar? Maybe. Maybe. And yourself? No. And why is that? I don't think it's for me. It's not you. Well, you've got great bodies. You look healthy and fit, and I think that's what the calendar's all about. So. Nikki, what month are you in the Pumped Up Done Under calendar?
April. One off my birthday month.
Oh, that's a lucky chance. And what scenario did you do this year?
Scenarios in the scene. I'm meant to be a boxer. Oh yeah.
Okay, and you got front cover. That's very good ordeal for your first time.
Yeah, pulled it off pretty well. I don't know, it was pretty fluky. It's alright. It's a bit of a surprise, you know. It's a bit of fun, and I was just lucky to get the front cover. I don't know. Yeah, it's good.
That's fantastic, and I think you've got a great future ahead of you. And you have a good night tonight.
Yeah, you too.
And I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot of you.
Hope so. We'll see how we go.
From the Geelong Football Club. He is a spunk around this bloke. Don't worry about that. David Spriggs. Springer. Just have a seat up here, Springer. Here. And also from the Doggies, let's hear it for Motown, Matthew Roberts. How many calendars you done now, Matthew?
This is one.
I thought you'd been in a few.
None tonight, but
Matthew, how's the hang going?
Yeah,
Because you're going to be signing a lot of signatures out there.
yeah. Hopefully everyone has a good night. I mean, it just goes to a good cause, the Trevor Barker Foundation. So hopefully we can raise enough money and give a few donations. It'd be good.
How'd you find the photo shoot yourself?
Yeah, photo shoot wasn't too bad. It was really cold when I actually did it, so I was freezing my ass off. But no, it was good. Just it didn't take that long, but got through it, and hopefully the photos come up good.
So when you haven't seen the photos, the prints?
I've got a couple of prints, but I wasn't sure which one he's going to use. So.
Okay, so what do you see when you look at the print? Do you see you in there or something else?
No, it's a bit funny like looking at yourself like that in different poses and stuff, so but, hopefully...
I'm sure Mum loves it.
Yeah, Mum
She got up on the wall?
So, yeah, Mum's got it up on the wall, so yeah, hopefully it comes up good. So.
And how are you going to find it out here tonight with all these screaming women? Can you handle the attention?
Nah, it shouldn't be too bad.
You're an old pro, yeah?
Nah, I don't know about that, but just hopefully, like with the support that they can get, we can raise a lot of money and stuff, so it's good.
Hey Steve, how you doing? I hope you're having as much fun as me here at Frostbites. Where are you, over at Crown? I think I'm having more fun. I'm just actually waiting for a few footballers to come. So, see you soon.
Hey, thanks a lot for hanging in there with us, guys. Frostbites. Tell this other video.
We're here at Frostbites for the Pumped Up Down Under calendar launch, and I have two of the calendar girls with me, Fernanda and Michelle. What month are you, Fernanda?
I'm May, Renee.
May and Michelle?
It's November.
Okay, fantastic. And how many times have you done the calendar?
This would be my 4th time. Yeah, once again, we're veterans, so my 4th time.
4th time, fantastic. So you're happy with the result this year?
Yes, I was very happy, although there was another photograph that I liked better, but Tony decided on the one that's in the calendar.
Okay. So what were you doing? What was the scenario for this shoot?
This issue, basketball.
Oh, and Michelle?
Yeah, I was doing a locker room hockey shot. Great.
And you're happy with the result?
Yeah, really happy. Great.
Fantastic. So you girls going on the calendar tour?
We hope we are anyway. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, love it.
Fantastic. Look forward to seeing you guys later in the Pumped Up Down Under calendar.
We'll keep moving through the crowd. Basically, what they're going to do is auction off some prints and stuff. All the footy players are going to be up on stage and everybody's going to be screaming. Are you ready to scream?
I certainly am.
So you're going to be bidding?
I think I might be, actually.
Really? What are you going to bid for?
I have no idea. It depends what comes up and what looks good.
What looks good to you then?
What looks good to me and all my friends here?
Yes?
Yes. A good ass.
A good ass. That's what you look for in these players.
And a good six-pack.
A good six-pack?
They've got to be smart. And nice hair.
You don't want much, do you?
No.
Not at all.
Simply smart. That's all we ask for is a smart.
So your foot...
String a 3-word sentence together.
You won't be at the end of the night, that's for sure. Keep going that way. Just like, a bit more champagne. Do you watch football for the reason of football or just for good ass abs and everything else that you want?
A bit of both, but mainly for the ass and the abs. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
It's not framed, but it's bordered, and it would look fantastic. Remember, as we dig deep into our pockets tonight, all the money goes to the Trevor Barton Foundation. They're renovating their house in Torquay in the name of the kids and that are down there with cancer. And so dig deep into the pockets tonight.
Leslie, is this your first time in the Pumped Up Down Under calendar?
Yes, it is.
It is, okay. And what was the scenario for the shoot?
I was told to come prepared for a safari scene, and other than that, had absolutely no idea what to expect.
Okay, so obviously you work out because I've seen your photos and you've got the abs.
I'm a kickboxer.
So what made you decide to do a calendar?
Well, actually, I was nagged and talked into it by a friend of mine who just thought it would be a great idea, and so she actually talked me into it.
That two. Are you done? Is that a bit? We'll take credit card, cash. 150 is a bit. 225 if you will, and 2 of the bid. And 2 of the bid, are you done? 3 for me. Stick with me on the left. 275. 3 of the bid. 375 and 3. At 3, 325, 350 if you like.
Personally
325, 350, 375 here on the left hand side. 375, say 4. At 4 we got 425 now, say 450 if you will.
About what you find attractive in a woman and what you think makes a good calendar model.
Good calendar model. Well, I'm going to say a good calendar model has to have great abs. This guy here.
Great abs.
Abs like that. Yeah. Oh, abs. Good, man.
Great abs.
She's got to be tall. She's got to be tall. Big arms.
What about for a girl?
For a girl, I'm going to say no. I don't know much about girls.
Are you a boob man or a butt man or?
I'm going to say actually I probably am a bum man.
Butt man.
I think so. It's a nice, probably not too big. I like a nice small bum. Honestly, yeah.
So, do you think I would make a good calendar girl?
Just around. Actually, yeah. I think you make a great calendar girl.
I think I get the approval.
See your shadow on the street now.
Hey, Brad, I believe you're in the Men for All Seasons calendar this year.
Yeah, for some reason, I'm not sure why.
For some reason, well, you're tall and you've got nice eyes. And so, no, how'd you manage to get into that?
No, I just got someone rang me the other day and said, "Do you want to go in it?" Basically said they'd pay me to go in it, so I said, "Okay."
So, sorry to be ignorant, but what football team do you play for?
For Richmond.
Richmond.
Yeah.
Okay, and what was the scenario for your shoot?
It was in the river. It was in the Yarra River. It was with a canoe. Yeah, it was cold. It was freezing cold. It was yeah, but it was just in the river, pulling along a canoe, pretty much. So.
Okay, and was that the first time you've been in front of the camera? Or?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, well, we're looking at a big future with Brad, and hopefully we'll see him in one of the calendars again.
I don't know about that.
Paul, you're in the calendar.
Yeah, I am this year, so I've been lucky and
What made you do that? What made you decide I'm going to do it? I'm going to be in the calendar.
Well, I've got a few interests outside footy. I like to keep myself pretty busy, and
well, you think you're a bit of a model then?
Nah, not at all, mate. No, not at all. I just got pretty lucky to be chosen, and so yeah, it was just to keep just an interest outside football.
Yeah. So what did you think of the end result of the photos?
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing what a little bit of makeup and a bit of a touch-up can do.
Do you see yourself in there? Do you look at you and go, God, that's not me. It's better than who I am.
Yeah, I do actually. Yeah, no, I actually don't really look at it. You know, I just sort of flick past it. I don't really want to look at it too much. But
are you getting a bit fussy now? Like, oh, I should have done that. I should have did this.
No, not at all, mate. I just look at it and I'm amazed that it comes up like that.
So would you then try and pursue a career in modelling or doing something like that, or?
No, I'm not. No, I'm just in the footy at this stage.
It's a bit of fun.
Yeah, just in the football.
So how's the football season going for you?
Yeah, it's going all right actually. We're sitting third on the ladder now, Collingwood that is, and we've got a few tough games to go, but hopefully we can play some good finals footy.
Do you get nervous towards the end of the year, like when we get up to grand final stage? You get a bit more anxious, or?
Yeah, we do. We get a little bit nervous. I mean, we've never played finals, or not myself anyway. So
is there a lot of pressure?
There is a fair bit of pressure there, but I mean, it's all for fun. I mean, we all enjoy playing, so we play to play finals, so it's going to be good.
So does your coach do? I know in soccer they say you're not allowed to have sex before a big game and things like that. Is it the same for you guys? You get told all that?
No, not really. No, not anymore. Anyway, I think maybe 10 years ago, but not now.
Man, then.
Yeah, we are. We're pretty
game. Well, plenty of chicks here. There's all those supermodels out there.
There's a few good-looking girls about.
The Crown, right? And half the footy players are here at Frostbite, so I've come back. I'm joined with Scotty, Lucas, Essendon, yeah?
Yeah, bit of an ordinary game last night, but
pretty ordinary. So tell me, why aren't you in the calendar? Why aren't you a calendar stud?
It should be. Maybe you should ask the girls tonight.
Oh, okay. Now you're his mate.
Mate, he has chicks everywhere.
That's why you're hanging on, isn't it?
I'm trying to get some of the slops.
But you know, you've got roadies. Does he follow you wherever you go?
He's a good bloke, this young fella. He looks after me.
He looks after you. How tall are you?
How what?
How tall are you?
6'4".
6'4", and you've got to look after. He's got to look after you.
I'm 6'2".
Yeah, I mean, come on. I think he can hold his own.
Yeah, I think he can.
So you're a basketballer?
Yeah, I play for Kilsyth.
Why not footy?
I played footy as a junior, but then basketball took over. So
okay, a bit of a ball man, yeah. So do you practice footy or?
I'm trying to turn him over, but it's no go at the moment. Too much money in football.
It's hard to change a footy play, is it? So you enjoying tonight?
Yeah, it's going well. I like the old strawberry daiquiris. They go alright.
Did you get recognised here or not?
A little bit. I don't like to be recognised too much.
Hey, drink card. Drink card, yeah. Use it for the drink card. Give me a drink with it.
I only use him for the drink card, so that's alright.
You've always got hangers on us, they're everywhere, but that's what you get. So you're going to push through the crowd because Renee's here somewhere, because I left her here and I went to Crown, but I followed some footy players back through and I don't know where she's gone. She's probably talking to some glamour girls. We'll see what she's up to. We'll squash through. There's a few footy players here and there. Everybody's getting a bit rowdy and drunk. It's quite a good crowd, actually. Oh, yes. What are you drinking? What are you drinking?
Just a Mel, mate.
You're carrying on that just from a Mel? I don't know. Unbelievable. Oh, you got a calendar?
Yes, I did.
You bought you've got the man one, yeah?
Yeah.
So who's your hunk?
Trixie and Springsy.
Spruzy. Why? Springsy, why?
Have you seen his photo? We got the last year's calendar too.
Oh, have you got it signed yet?
Where do we get it signed?
Yeah, you got to get it signed.
And where?
We got to find it.
Are you serious?
It'll be in here somewhere. So you had a good night?
Yeah.
So you're like football stalkers or what?
A little bit. No.
Yeah, come on, admit it, you are.
Just a little bit.
Now, have you seen any footy players here?
I wouldn't know them if I
don't know them. It's probably a good thing. There's a few of them actually. We'll head down the bar. We'll keep moving across. See how everybody's going, pushing through.
Yeah, whatever, mate.
Yeah, you're not a footy player.
Who?
You.
Yeah, I am.
Who are you then?
Yeah, if you don't know me, keep walking.
All right, I don't know you. I'm walking. Aren't you?
You found me.
Yes. I just come back
You know what? Isn't this more exciting than Crown?
It is.
It is?
And some of the footy players I followed them here.
Really?
So I just want to say thanks for doing this tonight.
Pleasure.
You had fun?
I had an absolute ball. Thanks,
that's
Steve.
good. No, that's great.
Anytime.
Well, I have to see you more on the show then.
I think so.
What do you reckon,
What do
guys?
you think?
Yeah. A seriously good-looking girl will just make my ratings go up.
That's
amongst other things.
Oh, Steve.
Okay.
I didn't think this could happen in Toowoomba. And then I saw it on TV that night. It really opened my eyes.
Whenever the community comes to us and says we need your help, we do whatever we can to assist.
It is a great feeling to be able to help your neighbours, to be able to help your community.
Each Lions member and each Lions club in different parts of the country, we're totally different. But we have core values that are the same. They remain the same for any Lions member and any Lions club anywhere in not just Australia but around the world.
Anything that you can think of that you want to do and support and help, Lions are doing it right now somewhere in this world.
I think Lions need to tell their story. They need to let people know the amazing things that they do.
The three major streams that we have in Lions are the community service that we do for the public, health and medical research, and the disaster relief.
We're out there to help people. If you love helping people, get out and help. Join a Lions Club.
We started this project about 20 years ago. All this gear would normally go to the tip. We recycle it and give it to someone less fortunate and where it is needed in the world.
Being a Lion here in Australia means that I can make a difference to my community. But most importantly, it's inspiring other people to get out and be part of their community and make it a safer and a much happier and better place to live.
Childhood cancer, I've always been interested in cancer and small children from the time I first got cancer 30 years ago. Research is an indefinite item. You can't see it, but it helps so much.
I'm here managing the money and the relationships, but other people are out there raising funds and bringing in community support. Without all of us working together, we can't affect change.
2 more extra hands at any function, any working bee, anything we do. 2 more hands can help us raise more funds, can help us serve our community better.
I went to my Lions Club and I said, I got this idea and I think it's a little bit crazy, but I think we could raise some serious money doing it. And it was to run 100 kilometres. And the club said, okay, if you want to do this, whatever you need us to do, we'll be there 100%. And I'm pretty proud to say that together we raised just over $16,000. So we blew the target out of the water, and I think that was due to a lot of the support that I got.
Through my leadership training and all that, I've learned about thinking global and acting local, and Lions Club is definitely that kind of thing. They act within their communities, but the money that they raise can often end up in any corner of the world.
As an individual, I could only do so much, and whilst it was my burning desire to try and help these people, having an organisation such as the Lions family to call upon to support me and those people that were working with me just made it possible for us to achieve so much more.
You know, after the devastation, to come back into the community, you know, you were shattered by what you saw. You know, no police station, no post office, no petrol station, you know, no kindergarten. There was nothing here.
And all that water with an
I don't know that I've ever seen as much as arrived. There were fridges, washing machines, dryers. There was toasters, jugs, just everything.
To be invited to be a part of Lions just opened up a whole new world to me. A world that provided a structured organisation that could see that the hours that I volunteered could achieve so much more.
I think Lions is a wonderful organisation. The people in it have charity in their hearts.
I can go anywhere in this country, see somebody with a Lions badge, walk up to them and say, good day. You got a friend.
Never once in my life had I had a group of people where I could go to, say anything, and know that no matter what, they would be there, they would stand by me.
It's the family. That's what we call it's the Lions family. Without Lions, I think I'd be lost now because they've been my life.
We work hard, but the most important thing is we have fun.
The fellowship of all the members of the club, the broader community, it's just a tremendous organisation to belong to. You know, I'll be here till I die.
It is extremely rewarding and gratifying to be a part of an organisation that can spread its support so far and wide.
More members means more hands, means more support to the community.
I would encourage everyone just to give it a go and see if it is for them, because the return that you get for giving to others is amazing.
Get out there, do something wonderful, be part of this fantastic organisation.
Multi-faith and interfaith is all part of harmony in diversity. Every Monday night at 9. Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV. The following program contains an MA classification and may contain adult themes and coarse language. MELfeed.video advises that it is suitable for viewers aged 15 plus.
When I started to think about what I would read tonight, I realised that every book that I've written, except for my last one, has something about eco-catastrophe in it. So I'm going to give you a bit of a sweep through my work in some ways. In 1974, I wrote a book called Bird. It's not about catastrophes. Well, it sort of is. It's about bodily catastrophes. It's a book about epilepsy. And so this particular poem, the first one, is called The Flood. And I dedicated it to my mother, but it's also in a way dedicated to my father, who was stranded up a tree for 13 hours. But you'll hear about that in the poem. When the flood came and I was 20, it began again. My father strapped himself to the tree and slept above the swirling water. He came home in a boat with men in yellow raincoats carrying sandwiches. The next day, I fell from my chair at breakfast. My mother, believing ancient advice, pressed her finger into my mouth. In unconsciousness, I bit into bone which cracked. Now, when her finger hurts, she knows a cold change is coming. When I woke, I slept again. I felt battered, beaten. For 3 days, I slept and woke and slept again. Afterwards, we drove the tractor along the cracked bitumen road. Slabs of road angled where the earth had expanded into clay. My mother and I walked along the river as it fell back into its banks. She said, "That day I thought you had died. Better my finger." Sometimes I think I did. A part of me died in those 3 days. I lost my belief in immortality. And that was about the 1974 floods in Wagga, where my parents had a farm.
This is a poem about the first type of camera, the daguerreotype. It's called The Silence of the Daguerreotype. Boulevard du Temple, Paris, spring 1838. A man opens the shutter of his apparatus, waits 15 minutes for the crests and dips of light to tarnish the layer of iodised silver on its copper plate, so that mercury vapour and a solution of salt can draw out a mirror world, the real one, now history. A divided road, traffic too swift for capture, buildings, chimney pots, sun-blurred shadows, wind-fuzzy trees, and a man, foot raised for the shoeshine boy. A man reading a paper. A man under the awning of a tavern. A woman next to a lamppost, maybe watching the first man. And in the big white building nearby, an old woman studying the to and fro of the street, while 2 stories up, a child peers through the curtains to where the contraption looks at him. These, the first people ever photographed, their rough likeness, what attracts them, forever fixed, stored in a glass case filled with nitrogen gas to stop something more than memory or less from fading before re-exposing us to us. Nowadays, that child would be staring at flickering screens or nodding to his earphones, Those others too profit-bound to stand or sit long enough to polish their status shoes, talk to any old stranger smiling with a camera, weep with the silence they've lost. Thank you.
Poor Alicia. I truly don't understand why life serves up the game it does, losing so many unborn children. With each one the lost possibility of siblings fighting, siblings parting, siblings being siblings. A mother having more than one to worry about. A mother having more than one to share her love with. A mother having more than one to share her trust with. A mother having more than one to have fun with. A mother having more than one to be angry with. A mother having more than one to call son or daughter. A mother having more than one to share her. A mother having more than one to share her. A father having more than one to provide for. A father having more than one to cherish. A father having more than one to teach and tell the ills and joys of life. A father having more than one to. A father having more than one to. I truly don't understand why life serves up the game it does, but one thing I know for certain is Alicia will cry, get mad, get sad, go for a very long walk, want to kick the dog, will have a big drink and say to herself, bullshit, and then somewhere in the midst of it stand up and become more beautiful than she already is.
Survivor. Blood and pain and death and caustic salt solution, left to die on hospital bed sheets, life unwanted, unworthy of life, and yet she survived. Blood and pain and death and Cyclone B, final solution, led to death huddled in the dark, a whole race unworthy of life, and yet some survived. Down through the ages it comes, the unnamed, nameless, ultimate evil. Life unworthy of life, the culture of death, expressed in different guises from age to age, the spectacle of the arena, the horror of the Inquisition, the wickedness of slavery, the senselessness of eugenics, the final solution, the madness of McCarthy, the brutality of Bosnia. It creeps up on us when we think ourselves cultured and civilised, as in 1930s Germany, as in Wilberforce's England, and McCarthy's America and Milosevic's Bosnia. So why should we think ourselves immune in the here and now? Beware the tipping point, life unworthy of life, the final solution, the ancient, nameless evil.
After over 25 years of broadcasting into homes across Australia, the Minister for Communications, Paul Fletcher, intends to switch off community television stations by June 30 this year. Community television provides an open access, free-to-air platform for Australians to connect, to learn, to educate, to express themselves, and showcases our diverse and vibrant local communities. But on July 1, it will be gone from the airways forever. Instead, it will be replaced by up to 5 years of white noise. The federal government has no alternative planned use for the spectrum community TV occupies and will be unable to do anything in its place for years to come. There is no upside and no explanation. We ask Minister Fletcher to show his support for the remaining stations and to keep local TV on TV. For more information, email info@c31.org.au.
Hey guys, what'd you like?
Coffee, thanks.
2 coffees, please. What kind of coffee would he like?
Go cappuccino.
Cappuccino. What can I get for you?
I'll have a coffee, thanks.
Yeah, 2 coffees, please. Awesome. And what kind of coffee would you like?
Cappuccino, thanks.
2 cappuccinos.
Autism. Change your reactions, change your actions.
The tax office can take money directly out of people's accounts
but you're not allowed to know. The elderly are being abused and neglected in nursing homes, but you're not allowed to know. The government can raid journalists for reporting the truth if it says you're not allowed to know. It couldn't happen in Australia. It's happening now. When the government hides the truth from you, what are they covering up? Authorised by Australia's Right to Know, Sydney.
I think poetry in school is often ruined for life for people because teachers make them get up and recite things and their knees are knocking together and it doesn't mean anything. Yeah. I got sent to summer camp a couple of times in Ontario, and one year I was about 10 or 11, and one of the counselors had a book by Lawrence Ferlinghetti called A Coney Island of the Mind. It was Ferlinghetti's first book. And I'd never read anything like that. It totally turned my head around and sort of opened me to the fact that actually poetry, and then I read Ginsberg, I read all the beats, Ginsberg and Corso, and then I got into Kerouac, and then I discovered Plath and T.S. Eliot, and sort of went
Proofrock did it for me. Once I'd hit Proofrock, I was never going back.
The Hollow Man was the first one for me, and Proofrock's incredible. Incredible work. This one's from my new book, The Adoption Order, and it's called Butterfly Kisses. Something woke me, something feathered up against me in a dream. Perhaps its soft tip of wing skipped across my face late one summer on the way to somewhere else. Or a rolling echo of its voice lasted past that particular season. This is pre-speech, pre-definition. I know no small worried birds hovered above me as I slept and slept in velvet parks that never existed. I know I have made up the memory of your eyelashes on my cheek as you bend over me, whispering your missing breath on my neck.
How do you find yourself gravitating towards poetry now? How do you keep getting pulled in? What are the big what's the
I don't know if there's any rhyme or reason to it. I'm sort of connected to it all the time. I don't write every day, but I sort of scribble away madly and then try and make sense of it later on. There's a quote by Hemingway. He says, "Write drunk, edit sober." I think that's very good. Not that you have to be drunk to write, but
a lot of people find that a little bit of something can sometimes give you a little bit of fluidity. Do you find a little bit of alcohol or something can sometimes give you a little bit of fluidity?
Sometimes, yeah, it can just be a bit of release. I don't think about what I'm writing very much as I'm writing it in its raw form. It's like I'm watching my hand sometimes, and the real work comes afterwards when you go to make it all correct. I mean, I can do up to 40 or 50 versions of a poem before I think it's done, and I can move on.
On the same token, could you write something virtually stream of consciousness and almost leave it unedited sometimes?
Rarely. I have done it, but it's rare.
Are they often very, very good poems, if they occur?
There's something satisfying in sitting down and just putting your pen down and going bang and looking at it next day, and it's actually quite fluid, as you say.
Polished. Quite polished sometimes.
Yeah, but it's rare. I usually have to do a fair bit of work till I'm...
Me too. Our process sounds very similar. I get little flighty bits of inspiration, but then they need a lot of work. But sometimes you haven't been writing the ideas down and they're kind of gathering, and then when you get it out, it actually is a little bit more crystallized.
Another thing that's interesting sometimes is to put something away. Like if you haven't quite snagged it, you can put it away and often bring it out a little while later, and it's completely obvious where you need to go with it. Whereas if you're over struggling with it at the time, it mightn't come so easily.
Trying too hard. Yeah. What do you think about the Jungian connection to writing poetry? The idea of poetry as dreaming, or almost the Aboriginal idea of metaphysics, in the sense that we've just been talking about poetry as being almost deriving poetry from stream of consciousness, or as you put it, washing your hands of it a little bit and allowing it to come forth from the depths below. Yeah. Is it? I mean, is it the subconscious? Has it got anything to do with dreams or subconscious? I mean, is that what you're doing? Are you allowing the subconscious to come up and unpack the buried?
Always. I think of myself sometimes as a mere conduit. The stuff comes through you and you put it down. I have a lot of dream-inspired work. I wish I dreamt less these days, because my dreams they wake me up, and there's something disconcerting often. And Raymond Carver has a great saying about poetry. He says, "Get in, get out, don't linger," which I think is wonderful.
So like painting, you can kind of overdo it to the point of...
I think you can overdo it, and I think there are poets who are overly verbose. My aim is always to say as much as possible with as few words as possible. I'll just read one from Domain. Clothing piles, Dachau. It seems the clothing piles reach up to brush the clouds. All those coats, those lovingly put-away coats, taken off on cold Polish nights and placed in closets. Rumpled dresses with the leaves of Warsaw parks still on their hems. A million pinafores, an avalanche of hats. All trouser pockets turned inside out. Shawls, knee socks, pullovers, undershirts, cliffs of clothing in the rain. Beyond that, the mound of empty suitcases, all carefully labeled.
Transports of Distant Delight is a mixed selection of transportation pictures from here and there and almost everywhere, but not quite. Some quirky, some mundane, some from the past, perhaps reflecting a transit system that has vanished into history, and some from thriving transport entities that continue to endure despite the constant pressures from the all-pervasive motor car. Enjoy.
This bank is helping to save lives. Every year, 500,000 Victorians have no idea where their next meal is coming from. Food Bank Victoria works with farmers, supermarkets and manufacturers to make sure their surplus stock ends up here, to be distributed to those in need. But all of this is not enough. Right now, this bank needs interest, your interest, to support Victorians in need. If you can help, visit foodbankvictoria.org.au.
Every day, in many ways, the Royal Flying Doctor Service takes the finest care to Australia's furthest corners so that all Australians can enjoy the best of health. The Royal Flying Doctor Service has been taking care of Australians for over 80 years. But we still need your help to continue providing emergency rescue and essential health care to remote and rural communities. Make a donation or become a supporter and help keep the Flying Doctor flying.
Years ago, I was in Cyclone Larry, and out of Cyclone Larry came this book, Earth's Breath. Now, something like 5 weeks ago, I was in another cyclone, Cyclone Yazi, and they're not meant to come that often. The ones of this size are only meant to come every 20 years, not every 5 years. And my partner said, "Oh, you're going to write another cyclone poetry book?" I said, She said, "I think that's right. I think that's the right decision." So I really haven't felt like it, whereas after Larry, instantly, I think the first day afterwards, I was there scribbling this out. So this particular poem, the first couple of poems are about what it's like just after the cyclone. It's called Canticle. The weather is as volatile as an economy in crisis. A triangle of hope, 7 frigate birds flying in formation. Days crawl by in silence and a frenzy of work. We collect fragments of roof, stacked like discarded toys from a broken Lego set. I carry a length of guttering over my shoulder across a rubble of trees. The broom has never been used so much in so short a time. I sweep paths, walls, doors, windows, the underside of the roof. Shredded leaf matter fills my mind, my hands, sticks to my bare feet. The heliconia are ground down, tattered and bruised. Their dresses a torn swathe of broken red flowers. The butterflies still wing by, but only 2 sunbirds return, collecting honey from the still flowering, collapsed stems. My body is abuzz with adrenaline. The muscles are fright with the energy of disaster day after day. Our hearts beat in syncopated arrhythmia. I climb, I walk, I carry, I sweep, I mop, I wash, I wipe, I weep. The ache in my feet, hollows of motion. We rush to close up against more wind and rain, waiting without end for the sun to spill through. With sleep, we open the psyche to a canticle of pain. And I had terrible nightmares after Cyclone Larry, but this time, no. Must be getting used to it.
This is like a play on words thing. I do, don't want. I will, won't parade. I can, can't count costs. I haven't in spades. I aren't a saint. I couldn't swim. I wouldn't abstain. I shouldn't sin.
This poem has nothing to do with catastrophe. I bought this in honour of Susan Hawthorne, who published this poem in Car Maintenance, Explosives, Love and Other Contemporary Writings in 2003. And the opening lines was, "What is mythic, what is true?" And this poem is offered as a response. The Veely, legend, the horsewoman, a woman with horse's legs who lives in the forests of Rizhovac, would come in the night and braid horses' manes and tails. And even if the mane and tail of one of the horses was short, when it was braided by the horsewoman, the mane and the tail would touch the ground. And if this should happen to your horse, you are not to cut its mane or tail under any circumstance. For these forest spirits, called Veely, wouldn't come to play with your horse ever again, and bad luck would befall you and your horse. The Veely were like witches. They could fly through the air. They would trap men, and any who were cruel to horses would take them to the top of the hills in Rizhovac. There they would dance with them, have wild and frantic sex with them till they dropped dead from exhaustion. I ride through this empty terrain, searching for you. See you before me, approaching like a mad angel. From a distance, my head screaming with swarms of madness, I think of her, trying to remember you, your face, your breath, your breathing. I let go of the reins, hold myself, weep to myself, knowing I will die if caught alone in the forest. The night is still. I shiver. Trunks and branches of pine and larch trees mottle in the evening shadows. The smells of the forest fill my nostrils. Somewhere in the distance I hear a branch crack, the whinnying of horses. So afraid of dying, the darkness of the night. Legend. There is one story about a religious man who went for a walk down to the ocean at night. He heard the vili flying overhead. He tried to lay down on the sand, and he crossed himself so that when the vili flew past, they would be forced to go round the sign of the cross. But they did fly over him, outlining the shape of the biggest cross you ever saw. The vili were wild people. If you did something like mention the word God or Jesus, you would end up on top of the hill alone with no one there. They were like witches and took on this form. Their magic was great. Their main thing was restlessness, delirium, sexual frenzy. Taken one too many, left with blood running down my arm. The silence of her, noise, pulse, heartbeat, speak to me in unknown tongues. In a distance I see a heron, hear a horse whinny out on this empty terrain. So afraid of dying, so nervous my nipples throb, wanting to see you, dying for you to want me back. Suddenly I hear hooves softly beating, feel their breath at the base of my neck. Legend of the woman with horse's legs who lives in the forests of Rijavak. She braids the manes and tails of other people's horses in the middle of the night while she is riding them. But if she finds people wandering through the forests alone, she will kidnap them, and anyone who is cruel to horses she will kill.
Parting. When does the leaf decide it's no use hanging on? Time to let go. Float to the ground with so many others. When does the hair decide to let go of the head? Or is it the head's decision and the hair has no choice? One moment still firm, the next a whole tuft comes loose. The rest sacrificed before their time as the barber shaves my head. Eventually, after treatment, new ones sprout, saplings after fire. So, thank you.
So, you think you're ready for this?
To take on the world? Why not?
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV. Live streamed from Echuca each week, MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV. live streamed from Echuca each week. MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV.
They say there's a chance I could die in a car crash. Maybe even from heart disease. Maybe even skin cancer.
I could die in a work-related accident, or I could die in a fight.
The fact is, the biggest cause of death for men in my age group is suicide.
Please don't let this happen to me.
You can do something. Lifeline believes that suicide is mostly preventable. Help us save lives. Find out what you can do at lifeline.org.au.
MELfeed Video is about to close operations for tonight, but we'll be back with you next Monday evening. In the meantime, here is a selection of programs that will be seen on our next scheduled web stream. You're welcome to visit our website at MELfeed.video for further details of this project. Until next time, from all of us here at MELfeed Video, we wish you a very good night.